Welcome my friends to another awesome color grading video, and as I promised you today, we're going to be taking a look at Gen 5 Color Space by Blackmagic. Now, those of you who are watching for the first time or haven't been following my channel, this is relatively a new color science that Blackmagic just announced a few weeks ago. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at pros and cons comparing to the Gen 4, and I'm going to show you the example color grading a little clip with the Gen 5, and basically we're going to talk about it as we go. What's the benefits and what's the difference with the Gen 5. For this video, I'm providing the clip. Be sure to check it out, link in the description below. So let's jump into DaVinci Resolve and get started. For those of you who follow my channel, you guys know that I am absolutely in love with this new color science. It's much better than Gen 4. For those of you guys who don't know how to access, you need to download DaVinci Resolve 16 Beta version 16.3.2 on their website. It's available for both platforms, for Mac and PC. This will allow you to use Gen 5 color science. In order to access Gen 5 color science, go to the camera raw. When decode using, instead of the project, change it to clip, and that will allow you to change Gen 4 to Gen 5. Rest of the stuff do not change. I always prefer working in the Blackmagic color space and as Gamma Blackmagic design film. In my opinion, if you're filming with Blackmagic cameras, those settings giving you absolutely best possible color. Now, optionally, you want to turn on the highlight recovery. I notice in the new Gen 5, it looks much better. It doesn't give you that little pink kind of highlight like in Gen 4. So they're doing really great job controlling. Okay. Now, the first thing you probably notice between Gen 4 and Gen 5, that right away, Gen 5 look much flatter. As a matter of fact, it kind of looks like S-Log from Sony camera. So it gives you a little bit extra flexibility from the beginning. So let's get started, and as we color grading, let's take a look and discuss certain things. And by the way, this clip available for download. Link in the description below from my website, as always. And first thing we're going to do a new node, Alt-S, and we're going to call this one Exposure. Okay, XP. And in Exposure, you can do multiple things right now. Because it's so flat, you can use contrast curve and kind of dial in contrast. When you do contrast, be sure not to clip and not to crush anything, because a lot of people, they crushing the blacks and your blocks become too compressed. Make sure not to do that mistake. You can also use the pivot in order to offset the pivot point. However, in this case, we're simply going to use offset wheel a little bit like this. Then with the gain, a little bit like that. And with the lift, we're going to compress blacks just a little bit. Another very common mistake I see people doing all the times, they compressing blacks too much. That black pretty much becomes pure black. And it's not correct, because there's no such thing as a pure black in real life. If you're going to look at the, let's say, car tires, they're not purely black. Even though they kind of are, they still have a little bit light in them. So be sure not to do that mistake. This is what a lot of people do. They kind of go like that, and I think it looks pretty ridiculous. Okay, so we're done with exposure. Next one going to be saturation. Okay, so always need to start with a properly color corrected footage before we're actually going to start grading it. So in the saturation tab, we can crank up saturation a little bit here. Also, what we can do, if it's not enough, we can go to individual RGB channel and add a little bit extra. However, when you do this way, when you have saturation as a slider, and this way, it gives a little bit extra artifacts. Let me zoom in so you guys can see. So be careful when you use this method. It works in some cases, but if you need absolutely clean footage, I do not recommend going that route. Okay, so let's check it out before and after. I think like that looks absolutely fantastic to begin with. Okay, next one. And the next one, we're going to start basically doing local contrast. And on local contrast, I'm going to start dialing the contrast that I pretty much want for my final image. Okay, so we can do a little bit like that. Okay, I'm liking it. Just make sure it's okay to crush or compress blacks a little bit. Make sure you're not doing it too much. And with the pivot, we can sort of dial it to our likeness. Okay, let's go again, before and after. Look at that. Huge difference. So the next one going to be green or trees. Trees, bushes, you name it. So what we're going to do now, let's see. Let's go to the qualifier. Let's select this one, click over here, and it doesn't need to be 100% accurate because we have a lot going on. Okay, like that should be good. And what we can do now, go to the primaries, drop midtones a little bit, so that way the shot looks a little bit more rich, more expensive. Now, when you do this kind of stuff, always pay attention to actual reflection. And we can see we screwed up with our selection over here, and we need to fix that. So let's go again. And let's make sure that we're not really affecting the actual car. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think like that looks all right. Okay, let's see before and after again. So now it looks pretty flat. We don't want that. So that's not all right. We need to find a different way. Okay, let's do it like this. Okay, perfect. And then let's do a little bit noise reduction. See how it sort of dancing in the background? No matter what you do, make sure that you always take care of this dancing noise, because this thing is absolutely disaster for your shot. Never have that dancing noise. Okay, so we can move slider probably a little bit like that. Make sure we have it at minimum. No, we cannot have that. Okay, let's see like this. Okay, let's toggle again, on and off. Okay, so perfect. Now we can start building a little look. Okay, let's go like that. Okay, so I'm gonna call this one look. Because the colors are very muted, I can have a very interesting look to it, kind of like organic, very earthy colors. So what we're gonna do in this case, we're actually gonna do color boost, and we're gonna bring it down. And what happens with the color boost basically works like a vibrance. It's affecting the least saturated colors, and it's increasing them when you increase it, and vice versa the other way around. So let me toggle. We can see we took off the little color edge from this whole thing. And what this thing allows us to do, if we're going to do a new node, now we can actually start dialing the global look. So for example, we can have any temperature right now dialed, and generally speaking, it's going to look pretty good. And because I want to do a little bit earthy, okay, we can do something like this. Okay, and for the highlights, because it's relatively a sunset time, we can do either a little bit green or a little bit orange. So let's see which one works better. Okay, I think like that looks good. Let's toggle before and after. Okay, before and after. Let's toggle the whole thing now. Before and after. Okay, so we start getting into that cool little look. Now let's go into Parade. And let's make sure that our shadows still black, which is they are. Gonna do a new node, and I want to give a little bit contrast to the blacks. So I'm gonna call this one blacks. Okay, don't report me, please. And what we're gonna do with this one, we're gonna do highlight. We're gonna disconnect this one and this one. We're only gonna be working with luminosity, and I'm gonna leave a little bit like that. We're gonna soften it. Let's shrink it a little bit more. Let's see. So that looks cool. And what we're simply gonna do, we're just gonna drop them. Okay, like this, or we can even do midtones. Doesn't matter in this case. And now with the feathering, we can manipulate how much of that deep black we want. Think of it kind of like a light occlusion in the 3D software. So it's definitely giving a lot more dimension. Okay, and as we can see, I'm crushing a little bit. The way we can fight this, let's go to the log. Okay, let's drop this low selection and let's just bring a little bit information back. Okay, so again, before and after. And again, with the selection, we have complete control of that ambient occlusion. So that looks really cool. So right away, it looks nice and rich. Okay, so now let's start talking about the highlights. Okay, I'm gonna do highs. Okay, and with the highlights, we can do a little bit of specular highlights. So again, in the qualifier, I'm gonna disconnect all of this, and I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, just opposite way. Okay, like this is okay, because I'm doing specular highlights. Make sure it's soft enough, that way we don't have any kind of dancing noise. So like that is all right. Also, I don't want to affect the highest, the brightest point of this whole thing. So now we're going to start going down a little bit. And we're going to be kind of in this zone a little bit. So again, let's soften it. Okay, so this is our selection. So that looks pretty cool. Now, with the gain, we can give it a nice little pop. You can see. Okay. Also, you can control the whole thing over here, obviously. See what I'm doing? And depending on how much you want it, you can use different tools. Also, what we can do, use a contrast slider. And with the pivot, because we have selection, we can manipulate the anchor point. Okay, so before and after. Before and after. Okay. All right, so that's cool. Now we can start doing the car shape. Okay, car. Very simple. This is relatively easy. I'm gonna do a very garbage mask for the sake of tutorial. Okay, so like this. Okay, something like that. Okay, and now I'm simply going to pop the contrast. Okay, and with the pivot, something like that. But we have a very strong and rough selection. So we're going to fix that with a little bit of feathering. Inside, outside first, and then inside. Okay, just like this. Now let's check it out. Before and after. Before and after. And let's see the whole thing. Before and after. So that looks really cool. And now we can start doing basically aesthetics to the shot. Because it's a car commercial, we can do, obviously in a real car commercial, you would do way more things to it. It's very meticulous process. So we're going to do mask. We're going to invert it. We're going to kind of bring down a little bit. So we're doing a very nice vignette. Okay. So let's see. This is what we're doing. And again, before and after. Even though the difference is very little, believe me, it makes huge difference in the end. So this one is Vignette. Now this one's gonna be ground, and with the ground, what we're gonna do is basically we're gonna have this little thing. We're gonna orient basically on the lines on the ground. Okay, and we're gonna darken it just a little bit. So automatically our focus gets right on the car. Again, it's a very small adjustment, but in the end it makes really huge difference. Now if you, again, depending what you do, okay, let me organize this a little bit more. Okay, back. All right, we're gonna do heist number 2, and again I'm gonna do very opposite, so something like that. I'm gonna do a nice little kick. Okay, that way we're adding more dimension to the car. By the way, some adjustments I'm doing a little bit too much so you guys can see. Can never rely on YouTube compression. Okay, again, look at the difference. Nice and cool. All right, and finally, this is personally my favorite touch. If we're gonna zoom in, we're gonna do film grain. Okay, because we want it refined, we'll do 35 millimeters. And this is how we color grade Blackmagic Design Gen 5 color science. It's amazing color science. I highly recommend you guys start using it. It offers a lot of cool benefits, very nice smooth roll-offs. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at the scopes, I can see that we clipped a little bit. And the way we fix that, look at that. We're going to do another note. We're going to call it clip. And basically, with this one, with the secondaries, with a qualifier, just going to do, without even looking, something like that. Where is it? Low soft. And with the highlights, we're going to start bringing it back. That's it. And let's toggle before and after. It was a little window over here. Okay. And you can see how easy and amazing everything looks. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe. All your subscription help this channel to grow and provide in the future even better videos for color grading, filmmaking, and a lot of other cool stuff coming very, very soon to the channel. Take care, guys. Until next time.